Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to be speaking about the upcoming Jupiter retrograde season of the year 2020. Now this Jupiter retrograde season is going to begin on the 15th of May when Jupiter is going to stand still in the sky and go retrograde the next day on the 16th of May, and this season is going to last until the 14th of September 2020. Now, a Jupiter retrograde season is always really important because Jupiter is a very important planet and it bears a very important symbolism. According to the ancients, Jupiter was the higher benefic, as in bestower of blessings. So, Jupiter is always associated with good fortune, good luck, blessings. It is the planet of expansion, so Jupiter usually expands, magnifies, makes it much bigger everything that it touches. And its symbolism has also much to do with law and justice, inner truth. Of course, Jupiter also represents our highest philosophies, our philosophical thinking, the maybe the non-linear logic of our minds, which isn't limited by earthly logic. So that's why Jupiter is the ruling planet of Sagittarius, because it can go, the mind, the soul, our thoughts can go wherever they want to, and through philosophy, through asking ourselves or maybe the universe the biggest enigmas, the biggest philosophical existential questions of our lives, that's how we evolve, that's how we tap into the highest expressions of the truth, and ultimately, what we do with the truth, well, we embody it. That's how it becomes the inner truth. And the inner truth is basically our faith, what we believe in. So it's gonna be the set of principles, life philosophies, life views that are going to govern us, influence us, that are going to represent the basic core of who we are. And when a planet goes retrograde, its symbolism turns inwards. So all of its effects, all of its potential manifestation are going to be felt that much more internally, psychologically. It gives us the power to make decisions, to make choices, and enact those choices. So, with the symbolism of Jupiter, it most probably represents inner truth and finding our faith. But whereas when Jupiter is direct, we have to enact and embody and make decisions according to what we believe in, what truths we hold, what life philosophies we have. But when it goes retrograde, it is a perfect opportunity to adapt, readapt, change, find an even deeper, an even more authentic expression of our faith. So sometimes it can be a rather, negative energy, because when faith is challenged, those represent like moments of the dark nights of the soul, or moments of depression, or moments when we do not feel in absolute control of our lives, especially destinies, because faith has much to do with that. And of course, as one of the most skilled, learned, knowledgeable, and deeply philosophical astrologers of our current times, Nadia Shah always says, healthy faith questions itself. So, sometimes in life, moments when our faith are not crystal solid, when external reality actually challenges to readapt our faith or to find an even deeper, a more authentic expression of it, is absolutely a not so easy period of our lives, but it leads us to discover and be able to embody the healthiest expression of our faith, because when faith is rigid, when faith not adapt itself, when it doesn't have even a basic versatility where it can take and look at the truth of other people, well, then that is an unhealthy faith. That is suffocating, that is judgmental, that is biased, that is already not serving our highest good, but rather is enslaving us, it is limiting us, it is closing our perceptions, it is turning us blind, and it is making us take decisions and take relevant actions guided by blindness, guided by something rigid, and ultimately something which is very unhealthy. So a Jupiter retrograde is always a really good opportunity for all of us, regardless what faith we have, regardless what, you know, spiritual or philosophical currents we follow, what we hold as truth. It is a perfect opportunity to just find a much healthier expression of our faith, sometimes to look for external confirmation, sometimes to look for internal confirmation, sometimes to reject absolutely any dogmas, any external philosophies, and just connect to the divine and, do our own research, do our own soul searching, do our own philosophical work, and come up with what faith means to us personally. And this is always like a breath of fresh air, because when the Jupiter retrograde season ends, we exit our own ivory towers where we had to refuge ourselves to look for the truth. We exit that and we can embody something much more healthier, much more practical, much more closer to us than what we had before. Now, this Jupiter retrograde season is going to be a little bit special because Jupiter is in the sign of Capricorn. On one hand, it's at the top of the sky, so it represents the world stage. It represents that external reality has a very, very powerful and more relevant influence than any other times, but at the same time, it's also debilitated in the sign of Capricorn. It's in fall, meaning that its symbolism cannot be expressed as directly, as quickly, as straightforward, where we might get the not so pleasant expression of Jupiter's energy in this part of the sky. So, very many times when Jupiter transited the sign of Capricorn, it usually created financial turmoil, economic crisis, and it always invited us to change, to readapt, to refine, to realign our value systems, both as individuals but also as a collective. And this is also very relevant because when an individual does that inner work, when that individual enters a period of economic crisis or maybe professional crisis, maybe work related crisis, and it doesn't have to be external reality because sometimes we just don't know what we want in life. Capricorn, our soul path, our life goals, we just get disconnected. So at every moment when this happens in our lives, we have to search, we have to see what resonates, we have to see what we desire, what we want to accomplish, what our roles are. And ultimately, this is why Jupiter is so important, what our inner truth is, because that is the only thing we can base our preferences and goals upon. What others want from us, or what may be symbolically the right thing to do, doesn't matter as much because it is our lives, it is our futures, it is our destinies. So what we believe in and what we desire to accomplish on our belief, based on our beliefs, is so very important. So Jupiter retrograde is always a perfect opportunity for that. On the other hand, if Jupiter is blessing, if Jupiter is good fortune, well then Jupiter retrograde helps us look at where our blessings are, where our good fortune is internally, and of course that gives us a chance to own it, to embody it, to use it practically. And this is very important for many people because there's so very many people nowadays in the present moment in modern society who have absolutely no idea of how fortunate they are, of where their blessings truly lie, of the skills they have maybe, and the skills and talents and masteries and learning, our higher education, our professional preparement, where we just invested time and effort into our studies and to gain professional experience. Now, for very many people, that is not very straightforward because modern society influences many of us in a very negative and illusionary way, where we might not always get the chance to know what is important for us, what are our true roles in society, in regarding professional lives. Some people are actually very lost because the education system, because of their mentors, their families, their parents, their teachers, the school, the university they went to didn't actually focus upon them individually. So if no one told them, well, look, you're really good at this and that, they had no idea, so they made totally unwise choices. And this Jupiter retrograde, especially when it's in the sign of Capricorn, this is like a big wake up call of discovering ourselves, discovering where our blessings lie, discovering our skills and talents, and our true worth as professionals, and the value we can add to society if we embody what we truly love, what we truly hold as truth, what we value in ourselves. And for some people, it might be totally different, even contradictory to what they do in the present moment, what they sacrificed for the past. Very many individuals, especially younger people, this is going to be a big pivotal moment when they just discover their true passions, when they discover their inner truth, when they discover their faith and spirituality, maybe. And you don't have to be a spiritual person, because even people who are totally scientific, who are totally, telluric people who don't consider the spiritual aspects of life, well, they have their subconscious, they have their superconscious, and that can give them valuable ideas, valuable, like moments of epiphany where they just suddenly discover what they truly like, what they truly love, and what they hold as truth. So this is definitely going to be a big changer, both individually, especially with our careers, our life paths, our material lives, what we want to do in life, but at the same time collectively, because on the world stage, Jupiter in Capricorn is always associated with a big change of value systems, especially the value of work, the value of time, the value of effort, the value of simply wanting to cooperate, the value of accepting the simple fact that you allow yourself to be part of a greater picture, you allow yourself to have bosses, to have superiors in order to do a job, in order to fulfill a social role, in order to aid society with your work. So this is all a big, gesture of sacrifice on your behalf, and your inner truth, your faith, whatever you hold as the greatest virtue in life has so very much to do with all of this. Now, as I said before, Jupiter is also a planet associated with law and justice, but it's more like the philosophical aspects of the law. It is the basic notion of equity, of social rules, of coexisting, which on one hand have much to do with our morality. Morality is basically another expression of faith, an expression of the collective faith, what we hold as truth, and which truth do we hold as valuable. So it has so much to do with our behaviors and those rules and regulations which govern our behaviors. And it doesn't have to do that much with collective reality, because if it's moral rules and regulations, when we look at the morality of justice and the law, it has much to do with what we desire to experience in collective reality, because those rules and regulations and morality reflect who we are as a collective, as a species, as interconnected elements. Those represent our collective psychology, what we hold as truth and valuable as species, as a collective, so to speak. And that is why when Jupiter is in the sign of Capricorn and it forms certain hard aspects, for example, right now in the present moment, Jupiter is conjunct Pluto, and we all know that Pluto is a very powerful influence. Pluto changes and transforms, and many times that transformation comes with crisis, with losses, with, death and rebirth. So, yes, absolutely, this spells economic crisis, this spells losses, this spells disasters, this spells crisis, but all of this to highlight the necessity of change. It wants to show us that the way things are in the present moment are not gonna work for the future. So either we change, either we improvise, either we adapt, either we, uh, the symbolism of Saturn, revolutionize, step into the future, and accept that we need to let go of the rigidity, we need to let go of our attachments. All of us have to sacrifice a little bit in order for the big change to be created globally. And that is exactly why we shouldn't really look at the crisis, the economic part, and of course the social and political crisis as something that negative. It shouldn't be about a big drama that all of us are living collectively, but rather an opportunity to behold the truth and to act upon it, to change, to implement the change ourselves. Because if we just leave it, and if the universe has to do it for us, well then it's not, we are definitely not going to have our ways, neither personally or collectively. If the universe has to do the work for us, it's not going to be a beautiful picture. That's 100%. So karmically, this is a big invitation to embody our inner truth. And let's not forget the most important element to this, that a Jupiter retrograde is going to go back to 24 degrees of Capricorn, that point where the big Saturn and Pluto conjunction took place on the 12th of January 2020, so that will reactivate that very powerful karmic point and expand its symbolism. So that is going to be a very important moment when all of us become aware of how that Pluto Saturn conjunction played out and what it produced karmically, both for us individually in our own lives, specifically where 24 degrees of Capricorn falls in our chart, but at the same time globally. And of course, something else which we need to mention is that all throughout this time, Jupiter is not going to be alone. It will dance together with Pluto, who also went retrograde. So that is the symbol of inner, very, very powerful, profound inner change, especially psychologically, where our value system change because our psychology changes, where we release the past, where we find forgiveness, where our toxicity is so much obvious to us, giving us power to change it. It's also a really good aspect to heal our traumas. And for some people, this conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto, even when both of them are retrograde, are going to be a big, big, big karmic lesson for gratitude, a big karmic lesson for appreciation, because Jupiter doesn't like unappreciative people. Jupiter needs gratitude. Jupiter needs us to be aware of how blessed, fortunate, advantaged we truly are. But if we ignore that, or if we act against it and just want to make victims of ourselves, well then Jupiter expands that. So this is a really good lesson for all those people who have powerful, obsessive self-victimization tendencies, who do not wish to acknowledge anything positive in their lives. This is going to be a really big lesson for them. But of course, this depends on your personal wisdom, because if you know how to cooperate, it doesn't have to be hard and painful. But if you keep up your ingratitude, if you keep up your moments of deep inappreciation of everything positive you have in your life, then it's going to be very painful indeed, because Saturn is returning to this part of the sky as well. Saturn is the big karmic judge, the lord of karma, the physical, the earthly manifestation of law and justice. So it's not going to be an easy energy if you're a deeply inappreciative person. But what's most important is that we as a human collective don't have any appreciation. We as a species are very ingrate, do not appreciate so very many things, and we are so very blessed compared to any other living being, sentient living being on the planet. Just think about it. We can access the stars, different planets, the cosmos with our intelligence. Is that not a blessing? Is that not the biggest blessing someone could possibly give us? And we have it, we possess it, we're using it, yet we don't appreciate it. And we focus, of course, on all the negativity, on all the hatred, the intolerance. We usually embody the negative expression of Jupiter and not the positive one. So this definitely needs to change. And this will be a big, big karmic moment, especially when, Jupiter retrograde is going to be dancing together with Pluto retrograde and Saturn retrograde. Yes, it's not going to be meeting Saturn directly, but that moment is going to come on the 21st of December 2020, when the big conjunction is going to take place in 0 degrees of Aquarius, a very powerful karmic moment when our world view changes, when the new paradigms opens up before our very eyes as a collective and individually as well, of course. So these are going to be very powerful karmic moments, and since Jupiter is the planet of blessings and good fortune, it will depend so much on us, so much on our faith, our life philosophy, if we are going to be blessed, if we are going to own our luck and good fortune, or if we are going to be fearing everything and treating everything as a big drama, and then we invite big misfortune, big problems, big karmic wrath into our lives, because reality reflects our inner worlds, and if we live in a state of deep ingratitude, then that is what we can expect. Another element to this which I would like to mention is that a retrograde season for any planet is a perfect opportunity to finish things which have been left from the past unfinished. It is a good time for completions. It is a good time to close doors to the past. It is a good time to find completion for everything that has been left unfinished. May sometimes from the very distant past, other times from the more recent past. And since all of this is taking place in the sign of Capricorn, it has much to do with our material situations. It has much to do with our career choices. It has much to do with our work, with our time, with our studies as well, because Capricorn is the sign of the professional. This is a really good energy to resume something that was abandoned in the past, maybe go back to an old profession, maybe go back to an old project, maybe go back and finish and complete older studies which might have been interrupted. It's a really good energy to resume apprenticeships or resume an old career, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be old at all, because if there was any stagnation in this area of your life, now it gives you the chance to do what you can personally. Yes, retrograde halts the energies, so the energies are not going to be flowing in your direction as much, but since the energies turn inward, it gives you the empowerment to do everything on your own pace. It is a good energy for progress, but that progress can only take place once you go within and find your inner truth, readapt and realign your inner truth. So this is going to be a powerful time for contemplations, powerful time to reanalyze everything, good period to rejudge, to look at things from totally different perspectives, to look at things based on what you hold as important as, and not that much the opinion of other people or the requirements of, let's say, external reality, the gatekeepers, the legislation, the paperwork, as in Capricorn, the legal requirements for something. Now, if you have any legal issues, legal problems, problems with the law, or something that has to do with a court of justice, this is also a really good energy, because this is the moment when you can make significant changes, you can add new elements, when you can rethink, when you can adapt a new strategy. Yes, on one hand, all of this is going to slow down it, or for some people even stop, take a break, but that moment of stopping, that moment of respite, is everything you need to think it through and buy yourself some more time. So, Jupiter retrograde is really good for any legal cases or even things which depend on external legislation, because chances are that the legislation can be changed, readapted, it can suffer upgrades. And especially here in Capricorn, the legislation might have to do with hierarchy within organizations, career, like work legislation, and all that. So, if you might have any issues or problems in that area of your life, a Jupiter retrograde can be a really helpful energy because it stops everything and it buys you a little bit of time to, figure things out. So, as a conclusion, I would just like to add that this Jupiter retrograde season of 2020 is gonna be very, very relevant and important, on one hand, from an economic perspective, and of course, a social perspective as well, because the two are hand in hand with each other. So, we're gonna see massive economic changes, and because of that Pluto, Jupiter dancing together with Pluto, we can maybe see, first of all, the downside of this energy, where all structures collapse, where our economic, even personally and collectively as well, our economic stability just fades away, it just crashes, it just falls down on us, and it will force us to readapt, it will force us to tap into our own ingenuity to find a way, find solutions to navigate around this, but at the same time, it's the perfectly true for the collective, government, centralized power as well, because ultimately they are the ones who have to fix this. But if there are times of elections, if there are times when we have to express our preferences, where we have to own our powers, now that is also going to be a very important moment, because that is where the change is going to be implemented, and that is where the change is, it leaves no other choice, it has to be done. And on the other hand, from a totally different perspective, this is a really powerful spiritual energy, because this isn't just the philosophy of Sagittarius, for example, when Jupiter traversed its home sign of Sagittarius, where it actually helped us to find our healthiest expression of our faith, our philosophies, our inner truth. This is where we also have to embody all of that and make decisions with all that, because Capricorn is a very powerful earth sign and it has so much to do with manifestation and with the physicality of all of it. Now let's take a look at the most relevant aspects which Jupiter is going to be holding with other power players. Now, just as it goes retrograde, it already forms a beautiful trine with the Sun in the sign of Taurus, and this can be a really good energy because Jupiter in Capricorn can represent help from authorities, help from a person, help from a highly influential person, help from our local government, the local council, everything that has to do with centralized power. It can represent help, aid, humanitarian efforts. It can also represent like favorable change of legislation, where maybe the relaxing of the rules and the outer limitations are going to be like a breath of fresh air, because they're gonna give us the opportunities to produce, to work, to apply all our plans, to apply all our skills, and sometimes it can even open up new windows of opportunity for all of us. So this can be a really good energy, and since it's a trine, this blessing can manifest in any shape or form. For example, your sense of self-worth, it can be greatly appreciated by other people, where it's not just you who think that you're worthy or you're valuable, but it's also other people or external reality. But it can also represent a fortunate energy, where just good luck gives you a material reward, or it helps you, guides you. It can also represent like an inspiration, an idea, where you just enact it and there you go, you have the jackpot, you have solutions, you have a blessing in form of material gains, material stability. It can also represent, like, since Taurus has much to do with sensuality as well from one perspective, because it is the nighttime expression of Venus, the ruler of Taurus, it can also represent maybe a really good and beneficial relationship, maybe a romantic relationship, maybe a partnership, maybe other people trying to bring out the very, very best in you. So it can also be supportive energy, it can also be a psychological energy, but regardless of how this plays out, it has a material element to it. So it's gonna affect, it's going to bless your material life. So it is going to be definitely something palpable. And especially for those people who are rather desperate, who has been greatly affected by the economic part of this crisis, this can be a moment of respite where they have a solution in their hands, when they can actually do something. Now, along with this energy, Jupiter is going to be holding a sextile for over a long period of time with Neptune, and this is the power of faith. This is the power of spirituality. This is where your dreams, your fantasies, whatever you focus on internally, maybe your artistic expression, maybe your skills, maybe you're a good musician, maybe you're a writer, a singer, or simply an influential person who you influence others with inspiration, with the beauty that you can project onto everyone. This is a really wonderful aspect for everything that has to do with spirituality, art, artistic creation, finding and embodying your faith. And since Pluto is going to be retrograde, this is a really good magical aspect, because each and every time Neptune trines Jupiter, it's going to be a manifestation of whatever we believe in. So tapping into our inner truth, our faith, our spirituality, even in a very religious way, where it's just prayers and the religious practices, all of that can have very powerful and surprising manifestations, as long as we act from a place of gratitude, appreciation, and a healthy positivity, an optimism, not the toxic one, not where we force this upon ourselves, where, our egos and our subconscious don't have even a choice in this matter. We just force down the positivity their throats. No, this is healthy faith. This is healthy optimism, because you have the power within you, so you don't have to force it. You just know. That is the expression of faith. So this sextile, long-term sextile between Jupiter and Neptune, is definitely like a breath of fresh air. It's helpful in so very many different ways, and if you're an artist, if you're a spiritualist, then this can lead you to fantastic accomplishment, fantastic rewards, appreciation, and acknowledgement. This can be the start of your artistic career, so to speak. This is a really beautiful aspect. And then in the beginning of June, Mars joins Neptune in this part of the sky. Now, on one hand, Mars is not very comfortable in the sign of Pisces, but when it conjoins that Neptune, it can be a really favorable energy, because it is psychological. It can help us find forgiveness. It can help us purge and cleanse our subconscious. It can help us come to terms with the past, with our failed relationships, for example, with our childhood traumas. And when Jupiter is sextiling all of this, and it amplifies it, it expands it, the healing is that much more relevant, and the healing has physical expressions, because when your soul is okay, when your soul is regenerating, when you're releasing the past, when you're finding authentic self-love, when your faith helps you very much, when your faith is that Mars, when your faith is the power of your will, well, then miracles can happen, absolutely. And since Mars is the activator, Mars is the planet of action, this can be a really, really powerful period for personal miracles, personal achievements, especially psychologically, spiritually, artistically. This can be a really, really good time when all of this has the chance to reflect in physical reality as well, because Capricorn is the sign of manifestation, and the planet of manifestation, Saturn, is not gonna be too far away from Jupiter and Pluto. So this is a really, really good opportunity for all of this, for healing, and especially just creating, just embodying the divine inspiration that you're gonna receive. And then again, in mid-July, we have the Sun in Cancer opposing Jupiter in Capricorn. Now, this can be a very important moment because the Sun in Cancer is our emotional world, is our loved ones, is our family, is our either the family of our origins, our culture of origins, our country, our local community, but at the same time, it can be our personal families, our children, everything that has to do with our emotional security. That is the Sun in Cancer. And when it opposes Jupiter, opposition is an aspect which balances out two opposing areas of life, so we can use this energy to find harmony, to find clarity, to align ourselves with our emotional values, to, yes, sometimes it's definitely going to mean having to sacrifice ourselves for our loved ones. It definitely means that our blessings are not outside society, but rather our true blessings are our family, our friends, those people who we consider family, who nurture us emotionally. So this can be a time of truth, this can be a time of clarity, this can be a time, even when the truth is unpleasant, that Jupiter helps us process all of this, because it's Jupiter retrograde, it's inverse. It helps us process our emotions, it helps us process those people who we love, those people who we want to be with, who we want to be a very relevant and valuable part of our lives. So this energy is going to be really significant for our familiar and very close one-on-one relationships with those people who we consider to be part of our soul families even. And the Jupiter retrograde is going to be amplifying all of this, magnifying it. And chances are this is when our personal lives and our family lives balance each other out. So for some people, for example, this is just an example, it can represent where they all of a sudden realize that they do not wish to waste their times that obsessively on work and service of others, where they rather spend it with their families and their loved ones, because time you spend with those people who you love are eternal moments. Those are how you build the most pleasant, the most wonderful memories of the true emotional treasures of our lives. So this can play out in very many different ways in the lives of all of us, but it is the energy of balancing out. It is the energy of grounding, because Capricorn is very powerful grounding energy, and out of the two planets, the Jupiter is the influential force. So our inner truth, what we hold deep inside, is going to be so very relevant. Then later on in August, we also have that Mars in Aries, a greatly empowered Mars in its home sign of Aries, being squared by Jupiter retrograde. And this is really relevant because this can be a rather uncomfortable energy. This can be a rather crisis situation energy, because Mars in Aries is extremely aggressive. Mars in Aries is our survival instinct. It is our survival mentality. It is somewhat our egos, which that part of the ego which cannot be controlled so easily. It is our aggression, it is our assertive actions. So Mars here being squared by Jupiter, well, these are going to be violent times. These are going to be times where maybe people take to the streets, where protests happen, where clashes happen, where people are aggressive and intolerant with each other. And I'm sad to say this, but this is where religious fanaticism can be a very negative and a very destructive element in our lives, because this isn't just going to be about survival, basic survival. This is also going to be about ideologies, of philosophies, and religious views clashing with one another. Of course, this can also mean a type of war, because Jupiter is in Capricorn on the world stage, but maybe it isn't the kind of war where different nations battle each other, as in the classical acceptance of what war is, but rather it's going to be like a diplomatic conflict, like a conflict which plays out ideologically, as in legal conflict, maybe in the tribunals, maybe in the European Court of Justice. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like the classical exception of war, but these are going to be really powerful, intense, and assertive times when a lot of turmoil is going to be playing out on the world stage, and even in our lives individually, because this energy can simply terminate jobs, terminate careers, terminate someone's professional life in an instant, because if they get enraged, if they get fed up, if they are not appreciated, or Jupiter in Capricorn, they somehow reach a certain kind of truth where investing their time and effort into something is not wise anymore, they can quit there and then in an instant. So this Mars is really, really impulsive, and the power of this square is definitely going to lead people to make unwise choices and to act and make decisions there and then in the heat of the moment. And this always leads to complications, this always leads to conflicts. But at the same time, because Jupiter is retrograde, for some people, this is the long awaited closure that actually needs to take place in their lives. So for some people, this is actually a good thing, where for the first time in their lives, they just decide to stand up for themselves and not take anyone's bossing around. They just decide to express and enact their inner truth, and if clashes have to be made, well, then that's the situation. That's what they have to work with. Then, of course, Jupiter also opposes Mercury in the sign of Cancer, so this can mean hurt feelings. When our feelings are hurt, when we misinterpret maybe something, when we fake news or bad communication gets into our sphere of awareness, Jupiter amplifies all of that, and of course that's gonna create massive traumas, massive dramas. It's gonna create moments of familiar conflicts, maybe conflicts within the family, conflicts with our loved ones, where our philosophies clash with our families or parents or our children's philosophies, and that's gonna lead to certain decisions, separations maybe. This is also the energy which can represent a divorce, but not as an illegal divorce, but rather an emotional divorce, where you just say, well, there's no point continuing this, both of us had enough. So this is also very difficult moment, and at the same time, later on, Venus is going to be opposing Jupiter, and that is also, Venus in Cancer, matters of the heart, where we love someone unconditionally, where it is more than attraction that binds us to that person. This is the energy of loyalty, this is the energy of long-term love, long-term commitment. So this is also going to be challenging, especially for those relationships which are already failing. This is going to separate people, but at the same time for others, this is going to be like an emotional closure, when finally they can close all doors to the past. And at the same time, Venus is rather idealistic in the sign of Cancer, so this can also lead to excessive emotions, excessive feelings, dramas amplified 100 times, so to speak. But fortunately, by the end of August, we also have a beautiful trine between Mercury and the sign of Virgo, its home sign, its nighttime expression, where it's super powerful. It represents problem solving skills, mathematical mind, where we can just foresee everything, we can just make calculations, where we can find a solution to every problem. We can even share our problem solving skills with others, because Virgo is, after all, service to others. So this is a really, really good aspect for work, for finding any kind of solution to any kind of problems you might have in your life, especially material ones. This is really good for career. This is really good for job interviews. This is really good for starting from scratch something, like starting maybe a new life, a new career, new job, new studies. This is where you are blessed by your mastery. You're blessed by all the time, effort, and energy you invested into your studies or work, where your life experience, your work experience, your mastery is coming to help and bless your life in the most significant manners. So for careers and jobs and even hobbies, even everything that you're passionate about, this is such a good aspect, because it gives you the power to find solutions and to all the problems that might be existing in your life. Of course, at the same time, the Sun is going to be holding a trine with Jupiter retrograde as well in the sign of Virgo, and that is also absolutely wonderful energy, because it gives us clarity, it highlights our priorities, it highlights the balance between service to others and service to the self, where our self-sacrificial tendencies might become obvious to us, and we might just know how to shift it, how to change it, how to transform it into a much more balanced expression. But at the same time, if we have sacrificed ourselves for others in a very relevant manner in the past, this can represent a fantastic karmic or any kind of other reward. May it be appreciation, may it be others coming to our help when we really, really need it, may it be money, may it be a job, may it be someone was so impressed by your, should I say, favor or something that you offered to them, that they want to make you a permanent part of their lives. So this is a really, really good energy. And then Jupiter retrograde ends at around the 14th of September, and then it goes direct. And Jupiter direct is going to be a really good period to embody and enact and to express all of the inner truth that we accumulated while it was retrograde. So yes, this Jupiter retrograde is going to be rather heavy because of all the hard aspects, and because it is traversing the sign of Capricorn, so which means financial crisis, or our focus having to be put and invested into the material aspects of our lives, including external reality, including as a collective. So this is definitely going to be a very intense and a very stressful period, but the progress we can make is phenomenal. And that sextile with Neptune, especially when Neptune is joined with Mars, now that is a major blessing from the perspective of spirituality, psychology, healing, regeneration, art, our powers, the power of our subconscious, our connection to source can use us as a channel and just manifest in our lives. And chances are, whatever we do not have power over in a very material and human way, then the universe, in the most miraculous fashion, can help us, as long as we ask for it, as long as we hold that connection, as long as we embody our Jupiter retrogrades and have that gratitude and appreciation in our hearts, so that we can enjoy all our blessings together with the universe, because the universe experiences itself through us. So this is a perfect moment when our greatest helper, when our symbiote, so to speak, is the universe itself, according to our own faith, to our own philosophies, to our own principles. So this is a really powerful and relevant Jupiter retrograde season that is going to be changing in our lives and our inner truth and our faith 180 degrees by the end of this retrograde season. So thank you so much for listening. May Jupiter, the planet of blessings, the highest benefit, so to speak, bless each and every one of your lives. And thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this. I wish everyone a lot of blessings. I wish everyone a lot of truth and inner power. Thank you and bye for now.